Now on LWT, the news.
Smiles and tears as British and European golfers prove their best. Mr. Kinnock set to win his reform over choosing MPs. Coup leader says he'll make Fiji a republic in 2 weeks. And the Yorks enjoy Sunday racing, but have to go to Mauritius to find it. Good evening. Europe's golfers tonight did what the Americans always said was impossible and won the Ryder Cup for the first time in the United States. The European team, most of them from Britain, won golf's biggest team event after seeing their lead against the Americans slipping earlier today. It's also the first time Europe's won the Cup twice in succession. The captain, Tony Jacklin, believes it proves his view that Europe, and especially Britain, now leads the world in golf. Tonight he said it was a dream come true.
It all ended on the 17th green in high drama. Ballesteros approach shot landing within 20 feet of the pin. But there were several moments of high drama before the great moment. Ballesteros putting to win the Ryder Cup for Europe, the first time on American soil. His captain, Tony Jacklin, was almost overcome with emotion. As Ian Woosnam led the European team out for the final round of singles matches this morning, the lead looked unassailable. Europe 5 points up, only needing to take 4 of the 12 singles matches to win. But from the start, the Americans showed they were fighting back hard. On the 17th green, 1 hole down, Woosnam missed this putt and lost a chance to take the match on the 18th. He lost that hole too, a disappointing end for what had been a magnificent weekend for the Welshman. On the other hand, Sam Torrance, who'd had a disappointing start to the week, evened his match with this putt and was rewarded with a kiss from Suzanne Danielle, his fiancée. Eamon Darcy beat Ben Crenshaw with this putt. It was a great moment for the Europeans. Tony Jacklin's heart could start beating again. They were a team, but for the moment it was Ballesteros' day. Still on the green, celebrating his victory 10 minutes afterwards.
Winning in the American soil is something special, and it's great. I think it never happened before, and it's great. Fantastic.
Tremendous, wasn't it?
Unbelievable. What a team. What a team.
I'm going to get drunk now. That's how good I feel.
and Tony Jacklin still couldn't find the words for it.
We have the best captain and we have the best team, so nothing else to worry about.
Jacklin says he'll have a lot to say later. Meanwhile, it's time to wave the flags from Scotland and Britain, or if you're Al-Azabar, a little Spanish dance. Ken Rees, ITN Sport at the Ryder Cup.
On the eve of its Brighton conference, the Labour Party looks set to vote in Mr. Kinnock's reforms on selecting and reselecting MPs. The majority of union votes have swung behind new electoral colleges. Mr. Kinnock says the party wants change, and it wants it now.
Tonight, Mr. Kinnock at a reception and his closest advisers are certain the votes are there for setting up the electoral colleges, the scheme which in his heart he's always preferred. This morning, the National Executive Committee backed him 17-8. By mid-afternoon, Ron Todd's transport workers were leading the increasingly solid support for the idea. Less certain, though, is Labour's present mind on policy. Brian Gould said again today it must be updated, though without what he called a bonfire of the old ideas. But if share ownership helped Mrs. Thatcher to victory, why shouldn't a better version of it help Labour now?
Instead of offering people cut-price tickets in a lucky dip, which you sell off the following day, irrespective of what that bit of paper represents, you sell off at a profit the following day, why not make a reality and make sure that shares are given to the people in the widest possible numbers, so that that becomes a means by which they exercise control over the economy.
But within minutes, left-wing MP Diane Abbott was sharply denouncing share ownership. And with Mr. Kinnock due to make clear tomorrow that any policy review will include defence, Joan Ruddock said Labour must stick to a non-nuclear policy or be seen as cowards and hypocrites. At another meeting, Dennis Skinner wanted more of the old policies, less of the new.
We lost the election. There wasn't enough socialism. Let's start injecting some now.
Tonight, delegates still faced bombardment with every shade of every Labour idea pressed upon them. In the debate on party democracy tomorrow, they must exchange ideas for decisions. Michael Brunson, ITN, Brighton.
Britain has warned the new military rulers of Fiji that they risk losing Commonwealth aid if they declare the island a republic. The coup leader, who wants to stop plans for power sharing between Fijians and the Indian majority, says he wants to make the break in 2 weeks' time. A bomb exploded in the capital Suva today, killing 1 Indian and injuring 2 others.
Colonel Rambuka's troops are maintaining a firm grip on the Fijian capital. Soldiers with automatic rifles man roadblocks and patrol the city streets. This morning, the colonel met the Governor-General to explain why he'd staged the coup and discuss his plans to turn Fiji into a republic.
If the republic is the only solution, well, so be it. We will have a president. I would very much like to see the present Governor-General accept the post if he can.
A few hours before the meeting, a car bomb killed 1 man and injured 2 others amid rising tension between Fijians and Indians.
We Indians, they said nobody allowed to go out from. So shops and everything is closed here. We can't get breads and anything what we like to eat.
We like British to rule all over and see what happened here, but we don't know what they're doing now.
Reporters trying to describe the confusion here are being stopped by soldiers.
The Governor-General says he's not under any direct military pressure.
What's going on here?
I'm just doing a report.
What report? What report?
For Channel 7 Sydney.
I'll just cut it out.
Today, people were told to travel only between church and home. In Suva, Indian shops are still boarded up. Sunday trading is banned. The curfew remains. Tomorrow, Colonel Rambuka has ordered local government officials to work as normal. Whether or not they do will be the first real test of his authority.
Jeweller Robert Chatwin has been charged with stealing a diamond worth more than £2,500. He'll appear in court tomorrow and more charges are expected. Chatwin was arrested at Gatwick Airport yesterday after suddenly returning home after 5 years in Spain.
Robert Chatwin was brought here to Sutton Coldfield Police Station after voluntarily ending more than 4 years as a fugitive. His lawyer was one of the first to speak to him.
He's got failing eyesight, but apart from that, he appears to be all right.
Chatwin's dreams of a millionaire's life in the sun were shattered when he was arrested by Spanish police. He was later released without charge, but could not be extradited to Britain. Left almost penniless by the failure of a local business venture, he was also shunned by many in the expatriate community. 2 West Midlands detectives visited him in Spain soon after he fled. Their 15-month investigation produced thousands of pages of evidence, but he told them then he would return.
He's intimated several times he would return to this country eventually. The return of him yesterday was unexpected. And I understand even his solicitor didn't know he was returning yesterday.
Mr. Chatwin will spend the night in police custody. Tomorrow he'll appear in Magistrates Court on a specimen charge of stealing a diamond worth over £2,600. Other charges are expected to follow. Mark Webster, ITN, Sutton Coldfield.
The prison officer held hostage by inmates at Shotts Jail near Glasgow has been released unharmed. The siege ended this evening when more than 100 prisoners surrendered. They'd been protesting over the transfer from Shotts of an inmate involved in last year's rooftop protest at Peterhead Prison. Iraqi jets have launched the heaviest series of airstrikes since the Gulf War began. They hit 4 tankers off Iran's main oil terminal at Hague Island. 1 ship was hit by 2 Exocet missiles. The Speaker of Iran's parliament, Mr. Rafsanjani, today threatened to carry on the war until Iraq's President Hussein was overthrown. Iraq promised all-out war unless Iran accepted the United Nations call for a ceasefire. 7 men have been sentenced to death in Tunisia for the hotel bombings last March, which injured 12 tourists, 5 of them British. 2 of the condemned men are already in prison. 5 are on the run. The Tunisian government says they're pro-Iranian fundamentalists. International human rights groups have criticised the mass trial and say some of the accused were tortured.
There were 90 defendants in all accused in this month-long trial of belonging to the Islamic tendency movement, of links with Iran, and of plotting to overthrow the government. Apart from the 7 death sentences, 69 defendants got prison terms, some for life, and 14 were acquitted. The judge, who's also chief state prosecutor, said the Iranian Revolution encouraged them. They were accused of bomb attacks on hotels in Monastir and Sousse last month, which injured 12 British and Italian tourists. The hotels involved were particularly popular with British holidaymakers. Worst injured was 28-year-old Helen Strachey from Ayrshire, who lost a foot in one of the blasts. She was visited in hospital in Ayr by the Tunisian ambassador, who promised financial help from his president Habib Bourguiba. The pro-Western Bourguiba broke off diplomatic relations with Iran in March. Iran's Ayatollah Khomeini has called for the spread of his Shiite revolution into Sunni Muslim countries such as Tunisia. It's been suggested the Tunisian bombs were linked to the deaths of hundreds of Iranians in Mecca just 2 days before. There is no appeal against today's death sentences. Amnesty International has condemned the trial as biased and has called for a full investigation.
The Duke and Duchess of York have had a day at the races in Mauritius. Sunday racing is nothing new there. But the couple started their first full day on the island in church.
The church bells attracted the royal followers and the faithful in almost even numbers as the Duke and Duchess arrived for morning service at the Church of England Cathedral in Port Louis. The tears for one little girl who failed in a scamper to deliver her flowers. Most Mauritians are Hindus, but the church was packed for the 40-minute service, the congregation boosted by officers and men from Prince Andrew's old frigate, HMS Brazen. And outside it was the Duchess who carried the morning. Don't worry, I'll hold them myself. Bouquet after bouquet of anthuriums presented by children representing the country's racial communities. Prince Andrew pitched in, working the back row. And this time, a happy ending for a very determined little girl. Champ-de-Mars racecourse sits splendidly in a natural amphitheatre of volcanic rock, and the gambling is as spectacular as the setting. With the exception of Hong Kong, more money changes hands at a race here than anywhere else in the world. Over £1 million on course betting. The Duchess naturally takes her racing seriously. The Deputy Prime Minister had marked her card at lunch, but she was still taking no chances, meeting each of the jockeys personally. Off and running in the main race of the day, the aptly named Duke of York Cup. Today's winner obviously not the royal choice. Tonight, a dramatic change in both dress and venue. The royal couple, guests of the Prime Minister, at the only official banquet of the tour. Peter Sharp, ITN, in Mauritius.
Soccer news, there was just one league match today in the 4th Division. The game between Newport and Hereford ended in a goalless draw. Britain's Nigel Mansell still has a slim chance of winning the World Drivers' Championship after his victory today in the Spanish Grand Prix. Mansell is now 18 points behind his Brazilian teammate and arch-rival Nelson Piquet.
Mansell knew that to remain in the championship race, victory here was essential. In an aggressive start, he took command from the opening lap. Whilst he was consolidating his lead, his teammate and the championship leader Nelson Piquet was having a hard time even staying on the track. A furious struggle was taking place for the 4 places behind Mansell, just 2 seconds separating the 4 cars of Senna, Prost, Boutsen and Piquet. Ayrton Senna caved into the pressure on the 63rd lap, overtaken by Piquet. And with only 5 laps to go, Piquet pushed a little too hard, ending up on an accidental detour. The battle was not over. Piquet forced to hit his brakes as Prost passed him to achieve 2nd place, 22 seconds behind Mansell. It was Mansell's race. He endured cramp and blisters to prove the fight for the title is not yet over. He's now left with a mathematical chance of snatching the championship in the 3 remaining races.
And that's all from us this weekend. Very good night to you.